Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so um, not a lot of news in regards to the NBA, of course, but there is a little something out there. Phoenix brought themselves some new jerseys. I like them. That I don't know exactly what they call them. I think it's stripes or threads or something like that. It's something having to do with horizontal lines. I don't remember the exact word, but I think they're some of the better new jerseys I've seen, and they have several of them. They have white and oranges, so that is about the level of news that we're getting right now. Uh, Anthony Edwards is changing his number. He's going from 1 to 5. I believe he had that number in high school. I think that's what I read. So he's going back to number 5. I'm surprised anybody would switch out of number 1. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. Usually people want to switch to number 1, but he wants 5, so he's gonna be 5 now. I don't get it. I don't really know. I don't like it, honestly. But that means something to him, so we get used to that. And of course, we know Bron is going from 6 to 23 this year, back from 23 to 6 to 23. In respect to the late great Bill Russell, whose passing anniversary was, I believe, either yesterday or the day before. So we definitely want to send warm energy to his wife and everybody who loved the great Bill Russell. Shout out to his town up there, the San Francisco, Oakland area. In fact, he went to my mother's alma mater, San Francisco State. So we got a special appreciation for Bill. It's too bad that he ultimately was a Celtic legend, because he was definitely a Cali boy. But we love him anyway. And yeah, man, that is the kind of news that's out there, yo. It ain't much. The Dame Lillard situation, we talked a million times about that. He's opened up his trade request to allow for just about anything. So that should get things done. James Harden, the Clippers, from what I understand, they're trying to get something done. Here's some news in regards to Dame Lillard. So I think I read that they are putting together a package with 3 or 4 first-round picks. The Miami Heat are for Dame. That's what the framework is right now, from what I've read. They got something that they're working on that maybe Portland might be willing to go for, with picks involved. Now, obviously, they don't have many of their own, unless they plan on selling away picks from 2028, 27, or whatever, is possible. But I have a mind to think that they have a third team in mind that's going to be throwing those picks in, and they're probably likely going to be sending something to those teams that make sense. Maybe a 5 second rounders for 1 first rounder type of thing, and then shoot that to Portland. Do that about 3 times if you can do it with all your future picks. It don't seem like that makes a whole lot of sense to me for a 36-year-old guard, man. I'm sorry. I don't know if Dame's 36. He might be 34 or something like that, but mid-30 guard, even at his level, which is Hall of Fame, I don't believe in giving away that much future assets for something that's going to be only around for maybe 2-3 years. Non-replenishable assets that I don't necessarily have the pieces in place to trade to get back. That seems like you're going all in for a random year when you can't secure the fact that your team's going to even be a top 5 team when you do it. People are assuming they're going to be a top 5 team, but I can tell you on paper, I'm not in love with that, depending on what they give up. If they give up a reasonable trade involving players, they're not going to be good enough. And if they can somehow get Dame in there without giving up any players, man, you feel great about that. But they're going to have to give away their entire future in order to do it. I think the Miami Heat are probably relying upon themselves being able to get something out of nothing a little too much right now. Being able to find more Vincents and Struces, and I just don't know that it is that simple as to be able to rely upon that. So I look at the Miami Heat, as I've been talking about them a lot, because that's pretty much what the story is. They're going to give up 3 first-round picks or 4 first-round picks for Dame. I'm going to say this, and I'm not sure if I'm right, but I think I can probably get away with trading his contract for just those picks. Maybe I don't have to give up any players, because that contract ain't overly desirable, and he isn't a young person. So, and I don't know that Portland really needs to be taking back players. More so, they need to be taking back trade value. So that might be what's best for both teams in the end. I don't need any salary if I'm Portland. I just need picks so I can start my rebuild. with Shaedon and Scoot. And I need somebody to take Nurkic and likely Simons. That's really all I need, depending on what Portland's desires are for their team, though. I thought that was a little more conventional for Brooklyn, and they didn't want any picks. They only took back players. They're hovering around no man's land. I think that's what you don't want to be if you're Portland. But unlike them, you do have Scoot in place already. So if you do want to do something like that, your future's set with the two kids we just mentioned. And you can afford to bring back the Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson-like return, more so than maybe other teams. So that's worth saying. But at the same time, I'm like, nah, if Miami is able to put together a pick-driven package, that should be more desirable than what Brooklyn took back for KD. And even if I'm not mistaken, Brooklyn did take back some picks. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they took back 4 picks on top of those players. So that's interesting to think about. Did they get picks back in that trade? I don't remember. Honestly, don't remember. But I know Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, whatever the hell else went. I don't know what else went. But that was the main course of that trade. I think they threw in Jay Crowder ended up getting traded in that trade, and he got sent out for 5 second-round picks to Bucks or something. I don't remember. But the point is, if they can get picks and players, that's obviously ideal. But if there's only picks in the trade, I don't think that holds up the trade for me if I'm the Blazers. Now, obviously, I got to preface that by saying you got to match salary, and that's a hell of a lot of salary to match for Dame. So players will be moving back and forth regardless. But if you get extremely creative, there is a world where you can turn all of that salary into futures and seconds and firsts, but I actually don't know if that's feasible. I don't know if that's real. But the point is, that makes it, and we've talked about this a couple times, I think it makes it a little more complicated when you have to take back salary when I don't necessarily want salary. This has already been said, but if I'm Miami, I would rather do it this way. I'm going to take back Dame, and I don't really want to give up salary necessarily if I don't have to, just to match it. And if I'm Portland, I don't want to take back that salary just to match it. You know what I mean? So if there's a world where they can fix that, I think it'll make these trades easier to transact. But that's not the way it is. So you would have to send $37 or whatever it is $million, probably more than that, $57 million for Dame's contract or something like it, to Portland for that contract on top of the picks and everything. And that is a headache because those that match that salary, they're not considered assets. They just match the salary. You know what I mean? It's like, here is Dame Lillard, a valuable $57 million, and there goes Miami's 57 worth of players and ain't worth nothing to nobody. You got Duncan Robinson's contract, Kyle Lowry's contract. Why the hell do I want that? I don't want that. That's not a positive for me if I'm Portland, but it needs to be done in order to make the trade. So I'm like, look, we got to figure out something that'll make it so that is not the case, so that everybody can take back what they want and be pleased. So that's also part of the trade aspect that I just have to keep my mind on, and then from there, don't like when I have to see it that way, because I know that there are ways to get things done that don't involve swapping salary to make everybody happy. I don't want salary, and they don't want to give it up. So why the hell does it have to exchange? No, it doesn't. You just got to figure out a way to make that make sense, and they can. Just got to figure it out. So that's really what it is, man. Hopefully the next collective bargaining process, whatever they got going on, they're already doing it. They're already working on it. They're already studying what they can do. The NBA has a multitude of things to focus on, and far be it for me to understand the fullness of their business plan, or God knows, I don't. But what I look at when I say that they need to make some improvements, I think it just comes down to having it so that teams don't have to give up stuff they don't want to give up to get back stuff that people want to give them. Yeah. That's it. That is really it. And if the NBA figures out that equation, it's going to be a much better league. So yeah, that's also something that was worth saying. I think now I look forward in terms of the Portland side of things. If they're going to make this trade, I would suggest they do it now, before training camp. I understand holding out for the best return, but listening to JJ Redick, I feel the same way he does. The longer you wait and you let this go into training camp, the more problems it creates for the team, the unit. Now, maybe that's a secondary problem you don't care as much about, but it is something that can devalue your assets if players come in disgruntled and play poorly because of it. Then suddenly a trade you think you're going to make suddenly doesn't get made because the players are starting to suck that you thought you wanted on the other side of that negotiation trade table. Suddenly, Anthony Simon's only averaging 8 points because the team is going crazy because he think he's going to get traded, and it's just, that kind of thing. So as to what you thought you could get him out of there for a certain price, once the season starts and people see him not playing well, averaging 8 points, now you can't make that trade. In the middle of negotiations, suddenly the price change on you. So that's what you don't want to happen if you're Portland. You want to take back the best return for Dame and move on. And if you let the season start with him disgruntled, and it does affect the basketball team itself, believe me, it's going to affect how trades are being able to be made as well. So I'm with JJ, man. They better look alive is the word. I wouldn't say hurry up, but you don't act like you can just start the season with this problem and assume you're going to get the best return. You may be affecting that return by making that decision. So that's an unspoken truth that I don't think should be ignored. It could have the reverse effect too. Guys could gain value. Maybe something you have on your team starts playing better, and then you could trade it for, you can get that trade done for less. So it can go both ways. But I think the risk is far more likely than the reward when you start the season with people unhappy. That's the key to it. So that is important. I think in Philadelphia as well with James Harden, their situation's even more sensitive in that same vein, obviously because of the nature of the team itself. Joel Embiid already making little statements about his feelings about how this is going. You got one of your biggest main role players, Tobias Harris, is finally expiring on his contract. You could finally afford to get rid of it. And I think they're dragging their feet. And a lot has been said about the Philadelphia 76ers and the moves they could have made over the last 7 years that could have made their team better, and the moves they did not make that ultimately left them just only as good as they are. And the moves are plentiful, man. It's a lot of, we could have went this way and it would have been better, but we went that way and it's worse. So for Philly, I think it's time to, even though I've been on record as recently as 2 weeks ago saying that blowing it up ain't what I would want to do for the fan base, if I just try to look at what's best for the franchise, retooling around Joel Embiid is probably the best thing to do. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid should be the only things left. Everything else, revamp it. The whole thing. The whole thing. And the reason why I feel that way is just because they really do need a rebuild, but you also really don't want to get rid of Joel Embiid. So that's what comes to mind. You hope to God he goes for that. But that's what I'm doing, man. I'm not going to have him in no man's land. I'm not going to do that. I'm telling y'all right now, he's been basically in no man's land his entire career. And we're going to get worse before we get better. So let's initiate getting worse now. And if he doesn't like it, far be it from me to be able to blurt out, trade him. But I do believe it will boil down to having to make the very difficult decision of moving on from Joel Embiid. And actually getting a return for him rather than letting him walk in free agency whenever that comes around. So you don't want to do that. You don't think of doing that, and you don't do that unless he forces you to do it. But as far as the rebuild, I'm going to initiate that if I'm Daryl Morey. I'm going to initiate that by trading away everything not named Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. I am going to do that. And we see how Joel Embiid feels about that process. But I'm going to be having so many first-round picks coming my way, it's not going to even be funny. Because the way I see it is, if he's going to be losing, he's going to be losing for real. And then we're going to have the first pick in the draft next year to bring in the best possible talent. And if we don't want to keep staying young, I can trade that first overall pick or second overall pick or whatever it is for something that's really going to be valuable that year. And bring him back a win-now team that has a bit more foundation than what they have right now. Because that's what they're lacking. In my opinion, is foundation and tradable assets. They don't have any. The stuff that you can trade, you don't want to trade. So you have to acquire things that you don't mind getting rid of that are valuable. That's the problem with Philly. So I'm looking forward to them. Hey, look, I'm going to say it and I'm going to mean it. Probably moving on from Daryl Morey. At the same time, James Harden's going out. Daryl Morey's following behind him. I'm not. Daryl Morey's here to bring me James Harden that failed. That's it. Unless they have bigger plans for Daryl Morey and his way of doing things, but he's a bigger name than he is a winner for me. And I've said that already as recently as 3 weeks ago as well. I'm cool, man. I haven't seen anything from Daryl Morey that makes me feel like he's going to bring me as much bang as he's going to give me controversy. I'm going to get more controversy. I'm going to get more to talk about off the court than I'm going to get moves that make me a champion with Daryl Morey. I don't need that in Philly. I don't need that. Now, maybe if we're somewhere else, another up-and-coming franchise that needs to get better quickly, and we're trying to bring in a hot name to shake things up, and Daryl Morey needs a fresh start, and maybe we can give him that here in Minnesota or something. You know what I'm saying? But as far as me doing that in Philly going forward, nah, man. Nah. I thought that the James Harden dream for Philly was misguided and shouldn't have been in place in the first place, man. Nobody should have ever been wanting to bring James Harden to Philly anyway. You know, that kind of thing. So for me, it's like, all right, I don't know if that's the owner's thing, and if that's the owner's thing, then Daryl's just doing what the owner wants to do. But I know James is his friend, and that should not have been something anybody prioritized in 2022. I'm sorry, nobody should have been prioritizing James Harden in Philadelphia 2022. So I just think everything they got going on could be improved upon, and that's what I see there. I really believe Tobias Harris needs to be moved right away, man. He needs to be moved because he is a $35 million expiring contract, and you do have needs as a team that can help you if you just get yourself some other small forwards, maybe some other type of power forward positional players next to Joel Embiid that can stretch the floor, be positionless, move laterally very fast, all that stuff. Tobias Harris at $35 million expiring should be able to get me at least a piece, at least one piece in that vein, man. You know, if not several, given the fact of the dollar amount on his contract. So, I just think about Mikal Bridges and how he's in Brooklyn. He should have never been in Brooklyn because he should have never been in Phoenix. He should have been drafted to Philly. I think about Jimmy Butler. He should have never been in Miami because they should have paid him in Philly. Like, these are things that's like, yo, if I'm Joel, man, I'm out, bro. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this with y'all even this season, man. I'm out. I just got married. Got my little boy, he growing up. I want him to see a champion. This can't continue, Philadelphia. So that's where I'm at with that, man. Shout out to Gilly. Shout out to everybody in Philly, man. But I'm getting rid of Daryl Morey. And I'm bringing in a GM who's just going to get some stability and some assets that are worth something around Joel Embiid, man. Guys that we don't mind getting rid of. And I guess you shift your mindset to a GM. If you're the owner and you're open to getting better and you actually want to get better, you open your mind to bringing in a GM who will allow you to move a guy like Tobias Harris, who will allow you to move a guy like Tyrese Maxey. So you don't be married to these guys and think you can't improve or upgrade from them, because you most definitely can if you actually have that GM in place that knows how to dream up such a thing. Now, like I said, Maxey is a player I don't necessarily want to get rid of. Don't get it twisted. If you're going to be getting rid of Maxey, you can send him to the Lakers, because I'm not down on Maxey. In fact, I'm up on him. But not for Philly. Not for what they need. Not next to Joel Embiid. Nah, that's not the right piece. I've been telling y'all that I love Tyrese Maxey, but not for Joel Embiid. You got to get him a point guard that's tall, man. Get him a big guy who can run the point like a Anthony Black type, Cade Cunningham type. Someone also very tall. It worked with Ben Simmons because they were good defensively. I don't know that I can get anything defensively out of Tyrese Maxey, and I definitely know that I can't get the most out of him if he's going to be playing as a third star on the team. Hell nah. He's better than that, and he needs to be in a high-powered offense that ain't half-court eccentric and all of that. He's a speedster. Why the hell is he sitting in the half-court waiting for a center to shoot jumpers? Hell no. Get him off of that team. It's not the right fit. So that's what I want to say about Tyrese Maxey. It needed to be said. I don't even think I've articulated that properly until now. I hate the fit. I don't want him there no more. Period. Get Joel Embiid a different point guard and get Tyrese Maxey the hell out of Philadelphia into a situation where he can be a starting point guard and lead a team that has speedsters around him. You know what I mean? Not half-court setup. None of that. None of that takes advantage of his speed at all. So that is something that I want to say. I just don't like. I hate the fit, man. I've been hated the fit. And then You know, if James Harden's leaving, I guess you'll have that role in place that'll give him the ball more in theory. But if you're sending out James Harden, and much has been said about how the Clippers don't want to get rid of Terrence Mann, I actually love the acquisition of Terrence Mann for Philadelphia. Him and Tyrese Maxey, now we're talking. I like those two together. Maybe not for spacing necessarily, but I love the speed. I love the athleticism. I love the youthful nature of those two. Tyrese Maxey running with James Harden ain't bad. It ain't bad. But in an isolated event next to Joel Embiid, defensively ain't doing enough for me. They're not doing enough to complement him. So that's what I'm saying. It's just like if this is what we're signing up for, I know Daryl Morey's, some of the stuff was in place before Daryl got there. So this ain't his dream. All this fit is not what he put together. But again, Philadelphia is married to things beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like they can't upgrade from certain things. And that's just not real. That's not real, man. I believe in being married, so to speak, to a player that we've drafted. If I drafted a guy, I want him, he's played well, he looks like he's going to be something, I want him to stay on my team. So I'm not oblivious to that from a Philly fan standpoint. Y'all want to keep the drafted players. So Maxey, Embiid, you obviously want your homegrown. But the problem is Maxey is your most attractive trade piece. That's why he has to be considered to be moved, because ain't nobody going to just up and take other stuff that you got. You don't, again, have assets that are worth anything that you don't want to get rid of. That you do want to get rid of, rather. Like, for example, the Lakers. We like all of our players, but some of our guys, at this point, if we have to make a trade, we're not married to not moving them. A guy like D'Angelo Russell, we're ready to move him. We're ready to keep him. On the price that we have him on, he could be a piece for us and all that. But he's been signed to trade. He's an affordable, valuable, young enough asset that we have that we don't have to keep, fam. That's what Philly needs. More of that. More of that. And it's about how you view what you have. Suddenly Maxey can turn into that for them if they just turn on their head and see that. Like, yo, he is that for us. All we got to do is stop being so damn married to him and move on from him and trade him for what he's worth. For the betterment of the more that comes back in his return, which will ultimately give us more to ship out to get better. So that's the science. That's all it's about. And Philadelphia just doesn't seem to be ready to make those type of decisions. So they'll be ready to continue to fall short. That is it. With teams that don't want to make hard decisions, teams that overvalue what it is that they have and aren't really ready to move on from stuff that doesn't fit. They don't want to be committed to a timeline. They want to kind of teeter on two timelines. How many teams have we seen, besides the Golden State Warriors, actually win a championship by doing that? You want James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid. Where does the timeline meet? Where these guys are all in the same place, ready to go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I actually think Philly's a little closer to that than maybe some other teams. But nevertheless, you got to do something about taking what is most valuable on your team and assessing it in a way that the field would see it, not the way that you see it with your heart. And then look at your situation as it pertains to your flexibility and your fit, and see what needs to move to bring yourself the best fit. Not being married to pieces that don't fit because they're yours. You'll never get the most out of them. You're never doing the most for them. And they just kind of there not being their best, and you're just kind of stuck to them because that thing is beating in your chest. When you don't realize you're going to love the players you bring in trade too. You're just not open to that. And that's what ultimately leaves teams not being as good as they're going to be. So far be it for me to know what the contract situations look like. Maybe they're contractual things that are in place that would make it so that this isn't as simple as that. And then maybe you don't want to move that contract because you move that contract, you bring back some problem. I don't know. But the point is, you got to be open to moving stuff that maybe you don't want to move so that you can be as good as you're ultimately going to be. Philly, this applies to you. Clippers, this applies to you. Toronto, this applies to you. It's a lot of y'all teams like that, man. Minnesota, this definitely applies to you. You got to move Rudy Gobert or Karl Towns right now. Why are both of them still on this team, yo? Like, the belief that they're actually going to get a championship is the most misguided and stupid thing in the entire league right now. Minnesota, you are not good enough to win nothing with Rudy Gobert and Karl Towns slapped next to each other. They ain't winning nothing at all. Anthony Edwards can turn into Michael damn Jordan. They're still not winning anything. So I'm telling you right now, You need to, addition by subtraction, move one and two damn centers and get yourself back a plethora of tradable things that are valuable to all of us that you're not married to. So you can create the flexibility that you gave away in the Rudy Gobert trade. So that should be the key for every GM in the league. Find you a D'Angelo Russell. Something everybody else wants but you. Literally. And hold on to it and have it ready as gunpowder, ready to fire at the next trade opportunity that looks best to you. I don't know why this is so hard for NBA teams. And like I said, the contracts themselves can make it so that it's not as simple as this is a bad contract with the contingencies, no trade clauses, options, player options. You need to know these contracts before what I'm saying is actually 100%. Because once you look at a certain contract, it's like, oh, I don't want to move that. Because this guy got this on there and that on there. And that's the type of flexibility stranglehold that maybe will make it so that I can't do other things. And if I'm not assessing that properly, I'm in the same hole that we're complaining about. So let that be incorporated into this conversation. The details of those contracts are very, very key. But that's why you sign contracts that you can deal with. Never make the mistake of signing a contract or offering a contract if you're a team or something that you can't do anything with. That's when you take care of that problem, not when it's time to trade it. So that's what I want to say, man. I hope everybody's enjoying their day thus far. I think I got about 10 minutes left to talk before I need to upload this thing. But, you know, I just am very much hopeful that the NBA, the individual teams start looking at ways to improve themselves so these teams can have fan bases that aren't suffering from long periods of time. I don't think there should be a long 15-year gap between teams making the playoffs anymore. If you have an injury that sets you back 10 years, that's one thing. You know, a lot of things that can go wrong that can set a team back, players not developing properly, no matter how much you pour into them, behavioral issues with superstars, stuff like that can throw you off. Coaches messing up in whatever way. But at the end of the day, it's going to be upon these teams to just kind of incorporate what we've already learned from mistakes being made into new situations, not continuing to let, with all due respect, new owners in that haven't learned those lessons, that are too in their own way of doing things to do the homework on what it is they need to learn before making certain decisions. Got to stop letting these people in. I'm sorry, because that's a big part of the problem. And as a conversation, I don't think there's a perfect solution to that. The more money you have, the more power you have in this world. So if I come in there with $1 trillion and I say I don't want a salary cap, it's a hard business decision to turn me away, and I get that. But at the end of the day, if you want to keep if you want to keep what you have intact, it's been working and together in a certain way that balance is very much prioritized. If you want what you have to fall apart, start valuing endless amounts of paper and let those principles deteriorate around the notion that paper needs to be acquired, and you will watch your business be destroyed. So that's what I know, man. You got to keep the balance so that the foundation can stand in place. And I think the NBA needs to be very careful not to let the wrong people in anymore. Honestly, you got to be very careful not to do it. So that's pretty much what I got, man. Value these players. Development, man. Please take your time with some of these dudes. I hear far too often talking heads talk about players who've only been in the league for 2 years, only been in the league for 3 years, and they label them a bust. They label them players who are not developing properly. They say that they need to be moved from their situations and various different things, and I just don't think that is what it makes the most sense in a good portion of those situations. 4 years without injuries, 6 years with injuries. If you're not giving players who come out of college as first year guys, usually first year guys is this the issue. One and done is what I'm trying to say. If you don't give a one and done 6 years with his injuries, 4 years without him, then you're going to be probably trading away a player that you ain't got no business trading away before he gets to show you exactly how good he's going to be, and he's going to be that good for somebody else. So I think people got it wrong. They want kids to be good second year. Everybody gives everybody a pass in their rookie season, but if you come back and have a rookie sophomore season that's a slump, suddenly you're labeled a role player, you're not as good, you suck, or whatever. Or just the opposite. If you have a fantastic sophomore year, now you're a superstar, everybody loves you, aka Christian Wood, and then the rest of your career people looking at you like you're crazy because you can't duplicate that. Christian Wood ain't a great example of that, but the point is he came along slowly and then fell back down. Point is, you got to let these guys develop into who they're going to be, man. You got to give them the 4 years to develop, especially if you ain't giving them playing time, especially if you ain't got Phil Handy next to you working on them dudes every day. If you don't have that type of intent development on these guys, and you're trying to just expect that they're just going to turn into whatever it is you want them to be, and you ain't invested in their development, then you're going to have a situation where the player ain't going to turn to nothing. And we're going to have data of you not being a good developing team with every passing case of that. So that's what I want to tell teams, man. Player development is important. I'm glad Phoenix is now getting themselves back into the G League game. And any team that doesn't have a G League affiliate, obviously it's one of the most important investments of your NBA tenure. If you don't see that right now, then you're in the wrong place. So there should be no teams that don't have a G League affiliate. None. So that's pretty much where I'm at with it, man. That's where I'm at. I got 5 left to speak, but I think the thought is out. I'm very, very thankful that the NBA has given me so much to appreciate over the years, but every summer, all life long, has an asterisk next to it because there ain't no damn basketball being played. August is my birthday month. I don't have no NBA basketball. It's the worst thing for a basketball head like me, man. It's the worst thing in the world. So maybe we can get a little more basketball. Maybe we can switch it around so we get some summer basketball. I don't know. But the NBA would be such a service to the people if they could find a way to give us all year long basketball to play, real basketball being played. Even if you have to extend summer league, I don't care. Do something, because life sucks in August and July and September. It just does. I'm not gonna lie to people. For those of us who really have passionate about the NBA, it's the worst time. We just want a fast forward button right now. And so that's pretty much where we're at right now with that. So shout out to all the baseball lovers. Congratulations to you for having more passions in sports. I do not share it. So I wish I did, but I don't. It is what it is, man. If it ain't basketball, I ain't interested. So that's pretty much what I got. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.